Hello everyone. So, you don't know me, but I'm here now and I'm hopefully here to stay. So, I'm just gonna get into it. This is a project that I've been trying to get off the ground for a while now, and I'm gonna go back and read and review all of the Silver Surfer's comic book history. And I say solo because at least right now I don't know if I really want to get into Defenders and all other crossovers and tie-ins, but that might change, I don't know. And yeah, so this is part 1 of that, in which I'm going to take a look at Fantastic Four Volume 1, numbers 48 to 50, and Silver Surfer Volume 1, issue number 1. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and if you do so, please do subscribe, like, share, comment, anything. And so, here we go. The journey starts with Fantastic Four Volume 1, numbers 48 to 50. So it begins, with issue 48. We jump into the middle of the action as the Fantastic Four are tangled with Inhumans. Black Bolt's brother, Maximus, has set up and fired the Atmo gun, which can end all human life on Earth. But it turns out it didn't actually kill anyone, since it does not affect Inhumans and, as is revealed here, besides the powers, they aren't really different from us. Maximus is evidently beaten, but in a moment of rage, he somehow uses the Atmo gun to create a giant negative zone cloud. The Fantastic Four escaped, but Crystal, who seems to be Johnny's love interest based on, circumstance, but I'm not sure honestly, isn't safe. It's strange that Ben saves Johnny, but doesn't even attempt to save her. I mean, I don't think it's intentional, but it's definitely noticeable. Everyone expects Johnny to blow up, but he shows maturity by being understanding and simply getting depressed. Then, that tale is over, and meanwhile, we see Skrulls on a spaceship detecting the mysterious Silver Surfer, and being terrified not of him, but of Galactus. The Fantastic Four see a fireball nearing and landing on New York, and filling everything with fire. Johnny impulsively flies to the heart of the city to see what's going on, and notices that it isn't hot or burning. So what's happening? Johnny, being a fire guy, gets him in trouble, and we spend some time on that until the fire just vanishes. And the Fantastic Four make their way back home. We get some melodrama, with Reed spending too much time on his job, which isn't as interesting or as well handled as it sounds, while Ben and Johnny notice that the atmosphere is filled with thick debris. Then, back with Reed, Sue finds that they've got company. Then, back with Reed, Sue finds that they've got company. Then, back with Reed, Sue finds that they've got company. The Watcher, who reveals he covered up Earth in flames and now in debris in order to hide it from the Surfer, and therefore from Galactus. However, the Surfer does find Earth and land, with our heroes powerless to stop him, as he sends a calling to his master. Ben punches the Surfer off a ceiling, and then Galactus arrives. And to be continued. Alright, what's next? On to issue 49. Galactus confronts the Watcher about interfering with cosmic events. He explains that he needs to consume planets to replenish his energy, and Earth is his current goal. Ben and Johnny try to fight him, but it's futile. The Watcher tells the Fantastic Four to leave, and so they do, not knowing what they can do. Meanwhile, the Surfer regains consciousness and falls into Alicia Masters' apartment, where she touches him and feels his loneliness, his outwardliness. The Fantastic Four make their way to confront Galactus yet again, but the Watcher gets in their way, warning them that they're not strong enough. He tells them that what Galactus is doing is installing an elemental converter which will gradually turn Earth's resources into energy for himself to absorb, leaving nothing but debris. Then, he explains that there is one thing that could stop Galactus, but it is in a place that only the Human Torch can reach. Back at the apartment, the Surfer consumes some of Alicia's food by absorbing the energy in it. Nice. And then nonchalantly explains that Earth will be destroyed. Alicia begs him to see that the world is worth saving, that it's full of people with hearts and souls, and she legitimately makes him see the beauty in the world. Somehow. Galactus links the igniters in his converter. Yeah, but nothing happens, because Ben has turned off a part of it. Galactus is enraged, but the Four use this as a chance to strike him. Galactus summons a Punisher from outer space. Meanwhile, the Watcher sends an initially reluctant Johnny Storm through time and space to find the vague object he mentioned. Back on Earth, the Punisher, not that Punisher, this Punisher, arrives, and the Fantastic Four fight them for a while. Sue keeps them inside a field until Galactus orders him to be dismissed. Meanwhile, Alicia manages to subtly and perhaps involuntarily, I assume pretty much involuntarily, convince the Surfer to fight against his master, and he flies away saying he may have finally found something worth fighting for. Finally, the Watcher wonders if the Surfer, were he to defeat his master, would be the one to enact the destruction of Earth. Then, we continue. On to issue number 50. We kick off with the Surfer confronting Galactus. He has a really good kind of character-defining line when he says, "Betray you? Never. But in truth, I should betray myself if I did not fight to prevent the annihilation of the people." Good stuff. He uses his power against Galactus. Meanwhile, the Fantastic Four wonder what to do. The Watcher tells them Johnny's situation, and we cut to him making an effort to, and successfully coming back to the world, where he's shocked by the insignificance he just realized humans really are. However, he did bring along some device, whose function the Watcher will explain to the Fantastic Four. Galactus tells the Surfer that he will destroy him. I really like this moment when he says, "I regret what I must do, for of all who live, I have cherished you the most." That's pretty good stuff. It deepens their relationship. I mean, not much, but it was pretty much nothing before that, so it's relatively pretty good. Reed aims the ultimate nullifier, which is what Johnny brought along, right at Galactus' face. The Watcher gambles with him, arguing that humans have potential to be grandiose, and Galactus accepts finding another planet elsewhere to consume it. Reed hands him the ultimate nullifier, under Galactus' promise of leaving, and the Watcher says that Galactus' word is living truth itself. Galactus then takes away the Surfer's, quote, space-time powers, and all goes back to normal except for Johnny, who's blacked out. The Surfer remains, and Alicia arrives. Then, we get a pseudo-love triangle moment, where she goes to the Surfer without talking to Ben, and the latter does some sweet self-sabotage after this. After he leaves, saddened with everyone else, Alicia tells the Surfer he has to meet the Fantastic Four, especially Ben, who is the most wonderful man who ever lived. But the Surfer instead flies off. Now, this isn't all bad. I like that Ben doesn't get mad. I mean, he's more like a guy who knows something like this would happen and just accepts it, thinking he's less worthy of love than someone like the Surfer. I also like Alicia not being totally shallow, you know? But I don't like it for being a lazy plot device anyway. I guess we'll see if it at least leads to interesting conflict or something, though I don't think I'm gonna read that far ahead. Anyway, there's some drama between Sue and Reed because the latter is, again, giving too much attention to his work. Then, we get some self-deprecating drama with the Thing. Next, Johnny arrives at college, where he meets Wyatt Wingfoot. The two become friends and go to the Dean, but all Johnny can think about is Crystal, the girl who was transported back in issue 48. Then, to be continued. Now, these 3 issues came out in 1966. After a few guest appearances both in Fantastic Four and elsewhere, the Surfer got his own series in 1968. Beginning with Silver Surfer Volume 1, Issue number 1. The Surfer sees a shuttle falling into the water and saves the guy inside, leaving him on the carrier that was there for him. However, pilots are ordered to attack him. The Surfer wonders why he's attacked, not just here but in the world in general, why there's so much hate. Then he flies away quickly, all through the world, still wondering why humans seem so keen on destroying their beautiful world. We then flash back to the Surfer's youth on Zenla, his homeworld, where we learn he had a kind of a Lex Luthor type mentality, that being born with power does not make you worthy of it, you gotta earn it. And the then current Zenlavians, which is the name of the race, had not earned it. In that flashback, Norrin sees Zenla in different time periods, contemplating how complacent his species has become. Back in the present, he sees a group of Yetis and is attacked by them. Of course, he quickly escapes them and flies off. thinking about how every human is, in a way, a Yeti, just a creature filled with fear. He then remembers how his path crossed with Hulks and with Dr. Dooms in the past. In his travel, he finds a strange, abandoned cavern, and again reverts to his nostalgic existential self, remembering his lover, Shalabal. He then remembers when the boring, hedonistic status quo of his planet was finally broken by the approach of Galactus' spherical shuttle. The Zenlavians used the super weapon to try to destroy it, blasting their own civilization and tearing it to pieces. But the shuttle was completely fine. It temporarily teleported to another dimension to avoid the attack, no biggie. The shuttle continues to approach. Everyone gets cynical and insane, but Norrin Red has his own brand of insanity. He's gonna find a way to confront this threat. No one seems to be on his line of thought, but he finds a scientist whom he convinces using logic to provide him a shuttle. Norrin flies all the way to the probe and infiltrates it. Finds Galactus, who explains his purpose, how he consumes just to survive, and thinks of anyone who has to die because of this as an ant. Norrin begs him to travel elsewhere, but Galactus says he would only do it if he had a herald of some kind, and Norrin offers himself. Galactus transforms him into the Silver Surfer, and Norrin decides to embrace his fate as an adventurer, a traveler. He said farewell to Shalabal, leaving her with the vague mission of not letting Zenla's people grow soft and indolent once again. Shalabal insists on following him, but Norrin rejects the notion of traveling with company at all. Over time, Norrin kind of developed a sense of morality, opting to protect those planets with life if possible. But once he reached Earth, as we now know, he finally went truly against his master. At that moment, he was sentenced never to leave Earth's atmosphere. Then, to be continued. This was a decent start to the series. I like setting up the Surfer as someone who has what seems like perpetual dissatisfaction with everything around him. It motivates him, and by extension his writers, to always have him seeking adventure and change and growth, which suggests that stories will not get stale. Hopefully. I like the so far vague mythos we get on Zenla too. They went too far. They created something that resembles a utopia but is more dystopian in the way people are. Complacent, boring, monotonous, and I like the detail of them all looking pretty much the same. Assuming that it was intentional, it helps drive home Norrin's angst over the monotony he's surrounded by. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it's interesting that despite being a Superman-type character, Norrin's worldview, at least before the incident, resembled the Lex Luthor perspective more so than a Superman perspective. You can't just be born with greatness and wealth, you have to earn it. In Norrin's eyes, perhaps, he earns it through his will, his perseverance, and self-sacrifice. Now, because of the melodramatic dialogue, and despite our protagonist being very introspective, it's hard to tell whether offering himself to be Galactus' herald is in fact more of a legitimate self-sacrifice thing, as opposed to a way to fulfill his dream of going out there and living the routinary, boring life. If built upon, though, that could be an interesting contradiction. So often, characters in circumstances like those Norrin is in feel sorry for themselves and blame the universe for their tragic lives. Yet, there could be a case made here for Norrin making this impulsive life-changing decision that essentially turns him into a god-level judge, jury, and executioner, not out of altruism as we may be led to believe, but out of a thirst for change. In that way, the tragedy comes from trying to fight against monotony, and the depressing lesson is that there is no good and safe way out of it. Either way, I'm heading too far away. This is a good issue. It's relatively long, but the visuals do a very good job of telling you what's going on. It's good overall. And that's the end of part 1. So far so good. As for part 2, I'm gonna try to get it out in the next 2 to 3 weeks, but I guess we'll see. I don't want to say month, but it might be a month, because next part is 17 issues long. I'm thinking about maybe splitting it into 2 parts, just have a video released earlier, you know, but I'm not sure yet. But anyway, if you enjoyed this, please do subscribe, like, comment, share, anything helps, and I hope you guys will stick around, and yeah, this was House Riley, and I will see you again very soon.